Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing really well. So super exciting video today because this is my announcement video for Old School April. You've probably seen a couple of videos popping up since yesterday on BookTube, and super excited to be co-hosting again this year with Kelsey from Slime and Slashers and a whole slew of other booktubers. So this is the third year for Old School April. I've participated every year, and last year I was one of the co-hosts as well, and we've just kept the conversation going between all of the co-hosts all year long about old school and vintage things. And then come January, we started planning out what we wanted to do for this year's read and watch and activity-a-thon. So of course this is, the main host is Kelsey from Slime and Slashers. This is her baby, but a bunch of us have joined in, and it's just an amazing group. So I'm going to go through a few things for the read and watch-a-thon, and then we'll get into my host recommendations. So this, I think, is going to be the first video of a few, because there's no way I wanted to sit down and do like a 2-hour video of suggestions and all of the prompts and all of the things. So I'm going to start by going through a few things, and then we'll get into my host recommendations. So basically, if you haven't heard of Old School April before, this is a giant nostalgia-a-thon that takes place during the entire month of April. And I'm really excited about this because this also couples with halfway to Halloween and with Nirvana month. So Nirvana month is something that I personally do for myself because Nirvana is my favorite band. They always have been. And of course, April is the anniversary of Kurt's death. And thinking about it, this is actually the 30th anniversary of his death, which is kind of crazy to me. So the whole month is just going to be full of activities of celebrating halfway to Halloween, all the nostalgia, grunge, 90s grunge, and it's going to be just fantastic. So I'm really super excited because I need to have something that's going to break me out of the slump that I've been in. And also, I've mentioned a few times on the channel before that I've been really consumed with my adult job. So getting into this has just given me a complete spark for everything that I love. So of course, being an 80s baby myself, and you guys know if you've been around the channel, I love everything vintage. Vintage movies, vintage books, vintage things. Like, it just harkens back to my childhood personally. So this read and watch-a-thon is for everybody who loves anything vintage, but also for people who probably want to discover vintage things. If you're a little bit younger and you want to, you know, harken back to decades before your birth. But it can also work for people who aren't really into vintage things. There's so many prompts and activities and everything for everyone. You don't have to read vintage books. You don't have to watch vintage movies. You can read modern day books that just, you know, kind of wrap around the themes of each one of the prompts. So this is very much a laid-back thing. It can seem overwhelming because there's so many prompts and there's so many activities, there's so many hosts, and you know, it can seem super overwhelming. But please know that this is a very laid-back event. It's you know, geared towards mood readers and mood watchers. You could take part in as much or as little as you want, and you know, just have fun with it. So I think a lot of people get kind of wrapped up in how much they're doing, but you know, take part in as much or as little as you want. So this year's theme is going to be themed around Legends of the Hidden Temple again, and all of the host teams are going to be the same as last year, with some new hosts added in. So if you don't know anything about Legends of the Hidden Temple, you don't need to know anything about this. It was a game show that was geared around kids in the 90s on Nickelodeon, and so last year we kind of themed it around the teams from that show, and then this year it kind of carried through. So there are 3 teams. There's the Blue Barracudas, which is my team, Silver Snakes, and Purple Parrots. And here's a list of all of the hosts. All of the hosts have been broken up into separate teams, and you guys as participants can pick whatever team you want to be on, and then we compete against each other for points with each one of the prompts that you complete. And then at the very end, there's a winner. So last year there wasn't really a prize, but this year the winning team is going to get to choose the theme for Old School April for next year in 2025. So it could be a Power Rangers theme. It could be like a Greasers theme, even if you want to go back to the 50s. It could be a Ninja Turtles theme, you know, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And there's going to be activities going on all month long. So there's going to be sprints, of course, watch-a-thon parties, there's a slumber party at the end, and then of course all of the read and watch and activity prompts as well. So it's going to be a giant month of nostalgia, and like I said, I'm going to break this up a little bit, and probably, I know Cameron was talking about yesterday shopping his shelves for all of the prompts that he wants to do, and I think that's a really, really great idea. So stay tuned for a video coming up here real soon where we're going to shop my shelves as well for all of the books and probably the movies that we're going to be watching. So like any reader watchathon, like I said, there's a ton of prompts. So this is just an example of some of the reading prompts. So Kelsey kind of designed it as a vintage library card, which I think is awesome. So this is just one example. There are many, many prompts that you guys can take part in, and you can pick and choose which ones you want to do. So this is a little bit, it's not as constrained as some of the other readathons that I've taken part in, which I think is great because, you know, it kind of opens you up to a little bit more of mood reading and mood watching. And then we have the activities. So this was designed around the back of a CD case. So again, this is just a very small selection of all of the activities. And then of course you have the watchathon portion. So this was designed around an old school TV guide, which I think is fantastic. So I know for myself personally, I love vintage movies, and I know my husband does too. So we're probably going to be watching a lot of movies during the month of April, and we'll do a big wrap up at the end, of course. And just before I move on, I forgot to say this. So you can use any one of the activities, books, or movies that you read for multiple prompts. So you can, if you read, say, a Christopher Pike book that fulfills the Christopher Pike prompt, it was printed in the 90s, so you can fulfill another prompt, and there's old school technology on the cover, so you can fulfill a third prompt. So you can fulfill it that way, and then I will have everything linked down below. There are submission forms that you can fill out to get your points. So you want to get your points for each one of the teams. So basically one prompt completed is 1 point, or a temple pendant as it's called from Legends of the Hidden Temple. So I will have all of the links down below because you guys don't want to hear me yammer on about rules and submission forms and all of that kind of stuff. All of the links are there, and Kelsey, I know, also has an entire video on each one of the forms, how to fill them out, how to submit them, and all of that. So before I forget as well, there is also a Discord server set up for this. So Discord is very new for me. I have 2 of them myself, and I find them a little bit overwhelming, but I do find that it is a great place for everyone to get together, and there's different channels in the Old School April one that you can go in and just participate in the conversation, or there's going to be some chatter going on there during the group watches. So make sure you sign up for the Discord server, and that'll be linked down below as well. So a couple of more housekeeping items. Old School April does have merch this year that looks really, really great. So also I'll have the link down there for that. It is part of an Etsy shop. And, you know, there's t-shirts of all different colors and mugs and stickers. Of course, I'm going to be ordering a black one. I haven't put in my order yet, so I don't have it. I'm wearing my Electric Circus t-shirt today, but I'm really, really excited for my other one to arrive. So make sure you get in on that if you want a shirt. And of course, I'm international. I'm ordering from the States, so I want to make sure to get my order in so it gets here in time for April. So all of this is going to be starting right on April 1st. So I'll have my TBR picked, I'll have my movie watching picked, we'll have our activities picked that we want to do, and I know that I'm going to get my husband to participate in a lot of this stuff. So I think for the entire month of April, we're going to be doing themed videos around that, and even during March, I'm probably going to be putting out a couple of additional videos here and there on what I'm picking to read, what I'm picking to watch, and probably going through some of the prompts as well. So the last thing that I wanted to mention before I get into my host recs is that this year is also partnering with Six Head April over on Instagram. So this is run by April at Apple and Alchemy, and it is another kind of portion of a vintage or nostalgia-thon that has prompts, and you can take part over on Instagram as well. So April is fantastic. Her prompts have all been released. I still have to check them out myself, but I'm so excited to put together everything that I want to read and watch. So make sure you go check that out. The links will be down below again, and so I'm going to get into my host recommendations next. So for the books that I picked for my recommendation, one is one that I've read several times and it's an all-time favorite. And the other one is new to me, actually. It's a new to me book and a new to me author. But I wanted to throw it on here because I really want people to discover not only this book, but to read more of this vintage author. So the first one, which is an all-time favorite, is Helter Skelter. And I absolutely love this book. It is very long. It's like 600 pages. But the way that I prefer to read it or consume it is through audio. So the narrator through Audible is fantastic, and I find if you're gonna read this physically, it might be a little dry, but putting this on just while you're putzing around the house or driving or whatever is fantastic. And I'm someone that I've always been, I guess you would say, interested in the Manson murders and what happened and the psychology around it and how they were caught, how they kind of formed this family. And this is the best source material that I've found. I've watched a lot of documentaries, I've listened to a lot of podcasts, I've read a lot of books on the Manson family, and I found that this is absolutely the epitome of everything. It has all of the information in there that you're looking for. So if you're into, like I said, vintage things, of course this takes place in the 60s, the Summer of Love, and you know, it's just fantastic. And I find that this really fills in a lot of the gaps that I had when I was reading and watching other things. So if you're into true crime, if you're into learning about the Manson family or anything surrounding that, or even you like things from the 60s, this is a fantastic book. And like I said, I would highly, highly recommend the audio version. And the second book that I wanted to recommend is, of course, the one that's kind of newer to me. I believe I read this one in December, and it ended up on my favorite books of the year list. I absolutely love this. So it's Ball by Robert McCammon, and I know Robert McCammon is Kelsey's favorite author, and I never read anything from him before. Of course, you always hear about Swan Song and Boy's Life, which I know for a couple of us here on HorrorTube, it's our favorite books. But I hadn't read either one of those, and this was the first one that I managed to pick up, and I don't even know why I chose this one. Why did I choose? Oh, it's because I wanted more religious horror. I wanted more religious horror, and this one kind of revolves around, it has those sorts of themes. So it revolves around demons and the occult and that sort of thing. And this is a fantastic book. It's absolutely blew me out of the water. Kind of the first half of the book, I was absolutely hooked. So it's not perfect. I gave it a full 5 stars because I loved his writing, but it's not one of his better books. It was actually the first book that he wrote, and there are pacing issues there. The first part of the book is like bang, 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 and the second part of the book does drag a little bit, but I find that the way he tells a story and keeping you interested and the way he writes is absolutely fantastic. So I want more people to read Robert McCammon, and this is one that's kind of out of the norm. Like I said, it's not either Swan Song or Boy's Life, which are two of the popular ones that people talk about. So if you're into kind of the occult and demons and you like beautiful writing, I would highly recommend this one. I also listened to this one on audio, and it was great because, you know, the voice changes and everything that the narrator did really, really added to the story. So I'd highly recommend picking up both of these for Old School April. And then the 2 movies that I picked, and I have one bonus one in here because it was a real missed opportunity that I didn't put it in, and I kind of wanted to change it after I gave my recommendations, but I love all 3 of these. So my 2 official recommendations are as follows. First, we have The Sandlot, which, you know, I'm sure most of us have seen, but I was actually watching the Grim Life Collective a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about, because they love everything vintage too, and they were talking about that Michael, who's one of the hosts, has never seen The Sandlot, and to me that's just unfathomable. I love this movie. I've seen this movie 200 times. When I was growing up, I loved anything that was kind of like a sports related movie with kids and teens and stuff like that. So like the Mighty Ducks and this one's Angels in the Outfield, all of those types of movies. But this is the epitome. This is my absolute favorite, and I watch it at least once a year. So I would highly recommend this one. I mean, it has everything. It has summertime fun, being a kid, baseball. It's hilarious. It's really comedic, and then of course it has that coming of age sort of element wrapped into it as well. It's very warm and cozy. I love this movie. It's just, I don't know. I don't think they could have made a better sports movie that takes place in the summer. It's absolutely fantastic. And then the other one is one that I really, really wanted to mention here because it's a movie that I love. I've mentioned it a few times on the channel, and not a whole lot of people have seen it. I've never met a single person in real life, kind of like through Instagram and YouTube and stuff, other people have seen it, but I don't know anybody personally who's ever seen it, and that's The Flight of Dragons. I watched it probably about a month ago with my husband. I watch this one every year as well, and it's a cartoon from the 70s. It has voices of John Ritter and James Earl Jones and a bunch of other famous people, and it's basically centered around the fight between magic and science, and it has a lot of really important underlying themes. So even though it was kind of like a kids movie, it's it really hits deep, and it was very developmental when I was growing up, and I think it had a lot to do with the way I am. Plus, there's dragons. Need I say more? So this is one that, like I said, is a little bit obscure, but it's an absolute favorite, and I really, really wanted to throw it in here for you guys to put on your watch-a-thon lists. If you're into that kind of thing, it's really, really good. And then for the bonus mention, I wanted to throw on Girls Just Want to Have Fun, because this is a movie that I've watched every year since I've been about 7 years old. I love this movie. It's fantastic. It has Sarah Jessica Parker with her big curly hair, and she wants to be a dancer on dance TV, and she has super, super strict parents that, you know, she has to try to get around so she can go audition for this show. And again, it has the coming of age. It has, you know, all of the amazing music and dancing and the spandex and the neon pink and all of the things. And, you know, just the soundtrack of this is fantastic as well. It also has Shannon Doherty and Helen Hunt in there also. So I mean, it's a bang up cast. It's a fantastic movie. I smile every single time that I watch it. And I think what I'm gonna do, because I like, even my brain is turning now, like I have other movies that I want to recommend to you guys. So that one is just a bonus, but the two official host recommendations are The Flight of Dragons and The Sandlot. Like I said, that's one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. So there you guys go. That's everything I wanted to say today. Like I said, all of the links are going to be down below for the submission forms and the Google Docs and the Discord and the Instagram page and the official hashtags and April's 6 out of April. Everything is going to be down there. But most importantly, I want you guys to make sure that you're checking out the other hosts' videos. Make sure you subscribe to their channels, because there's going to be a lot of videos upcoming in March and April collectively that have to do with this event. It's going to be fantastic. This is my favorite time of year for BookTube, because this is just kind of blown up into this huge thing, and really, really excited to get into my TBR and all of the movies and everything. So I hope you guys are excited, and if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up, leave me a question or comment down below, because you know I love talking to you guys. But until next time, stay spooky, everybody. Bye.